Hello and welcome to the RealTime Fantasy Sports Show. I'm Jeff Paur, senior writer with RealTime Fantasy Sports, joined by Logan Glaser of RealTime Fantasy Sports. Logan, how you doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
Not too bad. Came out of the buys okay. We had the tough buys last week. This week the buys aren't quite as tough. A couple good players are
Yeah,
off,
we had
but
all those superstar teams on the bye
yeah,
last week. That hurt a lot of people, and this week not so much. There's still several
yeah,
teams on bye, but not the elite
yeah.
teams.
The Falcons, Colts, Saints, and Patriots are on a buy. So Patriots and Falcons. I mean, you lose Bijan. That's not good. Jonathan Taylor's out as well. Michael Pittman, but for the
Camaros.
most part,
Yeah,
not too bad.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not too bad this week. So it's Tuesday, and we do this every Tuesday. Logan and I, we give our favorite waiver wire pickups for the week. Looking forward to doing that with you again, Logan. We also give you a streaming defense as well. We're in week 11 already. Kind of hard to believe. I don't know about you, but I thought it was kind of tough this week coming up with players to select. I pick guys that I normally don't have as much ownership. They have more ownership than I would like to suggest to pick up, but there just wasn't much out there, unfortunately.
Yeah, agreed. Each week it's kind of a hit or miss situation, all just because of injuries from the previous
Yeah.
week. And last week, not many players got hurt, which is a good thing. It's a good thing not to get hurt, unless you're a team that has a lot of empty spots and you need players on your waiver wire. But yeah, not a whole lot of options this week. Probably going to give you a couple players, maybe take a risk on if you have an empty roster spot. If you have some guys that got hurt, need to drop someone. I think these are good stashes to have.
And the one team that did have injuries last week, the Saints, they're off this week. So
Yeah.
they had Derek Carr go down,
Yeah.
and Michael Thomas was hurt as well. They're saying his knee injury could be uh, fairly significant. We'll see what happens there. And also, the other news just came out. I don't know if you saw this. The Bills just fired their offensive coordinator, Ken Dorsey.
I've not
So
seen that.
yeah, just happened. So we'll see what happens there. I don't know if that's really the main issue with them, the offensive coordinator, but
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how
What
that
about
plays out.
special teams with having 12 men on the field to end the game? I mean, that honestly could cost them a playoff spot because with their schedule is crazy hard the rest of the way. They're plus money in Vegas to make the playoffs, which is uh, pretty crazy to think about for the Bills. If you told me that they were going to miss the playoffs from the beginning, I thought no way. And there's Houston Texans sitting in a playoff spot currently.
It's crazy.
Football.
I agree though. I was looking at their schedule as well. It is awful. They might miss it,
I
and that's
know they
hard to
needed to
believe.
be 6-4 at worst coming into this stretch. I think to make the playoffs. So
The only
that
thing
game
that
last night's really going to hurt them.
yeah, the only thing that could help them is there's more teams that make it, which is the only way that I think could in a normal year where they didn't have that they'd be on the outside looking
Yeah.
in. But
The AFC is
regard,
kind of stacked. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
when you look at that, but
yeah
yeah.
for sure.
If they
It's
were in the NFC, I think it'd be a completely different story. I think they could sneak into the 6 and 7 seed. But right now, Bengals are also out of the playoffs. You got Browns and Texans sitting on those last two spots. So we'll see what happens.
Yep, craziness. A lot of season still left in the NFL, but for fantasy purposes, not so much. So hopefully you don't need too many pickups this week, but if you do, we're here to help you. And Logan, I think you actually have the best pickup of the week, your first one. So go ahead and tell everybody who it is.
Yeah, first one I'm going to go with is Ty Chandler. He's 18% owned. So Cam Akers is out for the season. So they're back to Ty Chandler and Alexander Madison as the two combo. So Chandler actually outrushed Madison last week 15-8. So that is very encouraging for him. Again, only 18% owned, 15 rushes for 45 yards and a touchdown. So that touchdown did save it. He only had 3 yards per carry with that. A concern I have with Chandler is his ability for pass catching in the backfield. He had 0 receptions. He only has 5 receptions on the season. So it's definitely a concern, but the volume with 15 rushes is very encouraging, especially in that Minnesota Vikings offense that is really picked up with Dobbs. So he's probably my top pickup as well this week, given the amount of percentage that he's owned and only
And
18.
Madison's banged up as well. That's the other
Yeah.
issue they're dealing with there too. So Chandler
Yep.
could definitely at least get a start this week, maybe next as well.
Absolutely.
All right, my first pickup is Noah Brown. He actually made my list last week. He's still just 35.4% owned, but He's done well with an expanded role, 2 straight 100-yard games, topped 150 yards in each of those games. So he's had monster numbers. I think even when they get healthy at receiver, the Texans, Browns has to continue to play a role with the way he's played. I think he's worth owning in all formats personally, and I'd go grab him. He's my favorite pickup out of all the options I have listed for this week because my other two guys are a little more owned, but I think Brown could be a help. Even if Robert Woods gets healthy, Nico Collins, I think he's still going to play a role. So if you're looking for receiver help, I'd go grab him. All right, Logan, who's your next pickup for this week?
Yeah, next one, he's a little bit more owned, and that's Tajay Spears. He's 77% owned, but I think he's a great trade candidate, or if he is available and which is a fourth of the leagues, go ahead and pick him up. He's averaging 5.3 yards per carry on the season, so he's fantastic with that. And he's also a PPR machine. He has 11 receptions in 3 games on limited amount of snaps. He's only getting 5 carries per game, and I love Tennessee's remaining schedule. So in their playoff stretch, they'll face Houston, Seattle, and Houston, and those Houston games are pretty high scoring. Whoever's going up against them, so I love that. So I do think it is a great stash to go ahead and get Spears or to trade for him, just because if Derrick Henry does go down, I think Spears is an instant top 10 fantasy running back. So just to keep that in mind, so I'm going to try to get him in some of the leagues that he's available in.
I think that's a great point you made as well, though. Like when you're in these waiver wire pickups and there's not much out there, I think looking ahead of the playoffs is not a bad idea at all. If you're, especially when it comes to maybe streaming defenses or a kicker or somebody you don't use a ton, it's not a bad idea to look ahead. And especially if you're sitting pretty and looking good for the playoffs. So I think that's a good call there, Logan, with Spears for sure. All right, my pickup next one is another receiver. It's Jaden Reed with the Green Bay Packers. So he's owned in 54.8% of leagues on our site. So he's available in roughly half, but he's really emerging as a top target for the Packers his rookie season. He had season highs in catches and yards last week, also scored a touchdown. He has scores 2 of 4 games. He has double-digit fantasy points 3 of 4 games as well. So he's really been consistent. I think out of all the Packers receivers, I might trust him the most right now. Dobbs and Christian Watson, they just haven't done a whole lot. Dobbs has been finding the end zone, which helps him, but Watson's been really a disappointment. Reed's kind of emerging, becoming a favorite target of Jordan Love, and they got some favorable games coming up as well. So I think he could be a good pickup in about half those leagues that he's still available. All right,
Absolutely.
Logan, who's your next pickup for this week?
Yeah, final pickup is going to be Rico Dowdle. He's 12 rushes for 79 yards last week, had a touchdown. Most of that was in garbage time, but Tony Pollard has really struggled so far this year. His last 3 games, he's gone 6, 9, and 5 for fantasy points. So it wouldn't be surprise me if he starts getting a little bit more rushing attempts, and they kind of slide Pollard back into that role that he was last year when they had Zeke as the primarily dominant rusher, and Pollard worked out of that passing attack. So I'm taking a chance on Rico in a couple of my leagues. I've picked him up in a couple already. He's only 22% owned. So I wouldn't surprise me to see that switch, or if Pollard goes down, then he's got, again, top 10 fantasy value as a starting running back in that offense. So I'm taking a chance with him.
Yeah, I almost wonder if it would be beneficial for Pollard to move back to that role that he was in last year, more in a
Yeah,
timeshare. He's been just a huge disappointment, one of the biggest ones in all fantasy, in my opinion.
I know. I mean, I think we talked about it earlier. He was going in the first round in some leagues.
Yep.
In our 10K syndicate, he went number 5 overall. And 6, 9, and 5 in the last 3 games is just not going to do it.
Yep, for sure. My last pickup's actually Cowboy as well, and it's Brandon Cooks. So I was kind of surprised to see this. At first, I thought, oh, he's owned in all leagues, but he is not. He's owned in 52.4% of leagues on our site. I think some owners dropped him because of his slow start, but he's really starting to come on. He had a monster game last week, 9 catches for 173 yards and a touchdown on 10 targets. He has touchdowns 3 of his last 4 games as well. His Cowboys passing attack is just rolling. Again, Cooks had a bad start. I think he got dropped in some leagues, but if he's out there in yours, I'd go grab him. I think he's finally formed a nice rapport with Dak Prescott, and he's going to be a good player the rest of the way, in my opinion.
Yep.
All right, Logan, let's talk about streaming defenses. We like to do this every week, give you a streaming defenses that aren't owned in a ton of leagues, and if you need one for the week, consider both of our options. Logan, you can go ahead and go first.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with the Lions this week. They're 46% owned, so available in over half the leagues with that. In the last 2 out of 3 games, they have given up at least 38 points, which is not encouraging, but they face the Bears this week, and I think Justin Fields will be the starting quarterback this week for the Bears. There was talks about him last week, but it was up to the game time decision with that, and they ruled him out. So I do think Fields will be starting this week. And he takes a lot of sacks. He's a mobile quarterback, lots of rushing. So he definitely takes a lot of sacks. And the Lions have 3 games with at least 5 or more sacks. They had 7 in one of them. So they get after the quarterback well enough. So I'm going to go ahead and take them as my streaming defense this week.
So I am taking the Houston Texans. They're just 11.2% owned. They had 8 points last week, though, against a very good Bengals offense. They have 4+ sacks, 2 of 3 games, 4 games this year with 8 or more fantasy points. So it's not huge numbers, but they post consistent numbers. And they play the Cardinals this week. I'm not exactly sold on them being a high-powered offense. I know Kyler Murray's back. They looked better last week, but still, I think they're just so offensively. I think the Texans could be a good play this week if you're looking for a pickup to use in week 11. All right, Logan, that's our waiver wire ad video for the week. Appreciate you joining me as always. A lot of fun talking with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jeff.
We'll have to do it again sometime soon. Don't forget, we do another video we do every Thursday at 10:30 Central Time. That's our time, or 11:30 Eastern, and that is actually live. We'll answer questions. We go over all the games. We pick a different topic for the week for the games. So it's always a lot of fun to do that with you, Logan. So that takes place Thursdays when we post it at the site. So looking forward to talking to you Thursday, and good luck in all your games this week.
Thanks.
All right, this has been Jeff Paur with RealTime Fantasy Sports. Have a great day, everyone.